For over 2 decades, Xterra has brought together some of the world's fittest, toughest, and craftiest endurance athletes for a series of off-road triathlons. Races that combine open water swimming, mountain biking, and trail running, and demand skill and tenacity, guile and grit. More than a sport, Xterra is a lifestyle, requiring total commitment from the bold and ambitious warriors who want to test themselves against the elements, the terrain, the conditions, and each other in some of the most spectacular natural settings in all of athletics. In this, the 24th season of Xterra racing, the sport's appeal continues to grow. And as more and more professional athletes are drawn to its unique challenges, the stakes are higher and the victories harder to come by. But it's more than just elite triathletes who live and breathe Xterra. For the thousands of age group competitors, training can become a personal mission, and reaching an Xterra finish line represents a major life accomplishment. This series will bring you the stories, the motivations, the frustrations, and the triumphs of the 2019 Xterra World Tour. For episode 5, we head to Colorado and the stunning ski resort of Beaver Creek, located 8,000 feet above sea level in the Rocky Mountains. It is here that Josiah Middaugh, the greatest American Xterra athlete in history and the 2015 world champion, lives, trains, and thrives.
What I found living in the Vail Valley is that the environment I live in is much more conducive to Xterra than road triathlon. And we have amazing opportunities for trail running and mountain biking and climbing going uphill. And so it was a very natural fit. So it's almost like Xterra chose me other than the other way around.
Nothing about Middaugh's road to Xterra prominence has been conventional.
I grew up in northern Michigan. There was an old Bohemian settlement there and a bunch of kind of like-minded people all kind of bought into this land. And basically it was a group of hippies that decided to live a simple life and raise their family there in a very simple and communal way. We had a dirt floor for a while, thatch roof, eventually built a house, but had an outhouse for about 6 years. And so a very simple life, no TV for a long time, no running water for a couple years, and that was all I knew. When my dad was about 42, he started to run to lose weight, and so I started to run with him, and I was about 10 years old. And so running was my only endurance background, but I also played baseball, basketball, and so then through high school I would run cross country in the fall, basketball in the winter, and then run track in the spring. And my strength was nothing physical. It was more just about my drive to improve and my perseverance. I would be out, doing basketball drills or, trying to devise ways to get stronger and get faster. And, my dad took an old axe handle, drilled some holes in it and hung it from the ceiling. And he said, okay, you want to get stronger? Well, you need to have 2 tablespoons of peanut butter, a glass of milk, and do 15 pull-ups before you go to bed every night. And so I'm like, okay, Dad, that's what I'll try to do.
Xterra Adventures is presented by Tea Tree, eco-minded hair care infused with natural botanicals. Discover the natural magic of Tea Tree. Beaver Creek. Explore the extraordinary at beavercreek.com. This segment is brought to you by Tea Tree by Paul Mitchell. After college, Middaugh moved to Colorado and tried his first Xterra race in Keystone.
I had all of this run fitness, but it didn't count for anything. I had a panic attack in the water. I did the side stroke, which is not one of the 4 strokes. And then I just suffered on the bike. I had never mountain biked before, and I was horrible, but I was hooked. Instead of seeing it as a failure, I saw it as motivation to get better. And when I came back the next year, 1 year later, I did the course 45 minutes faster than I did the first year. And that's when I started thinking, wow, I looked at the pros and I'm like, I'm not that far away. Let's see what I could do with this sport.
What he could do, it turned out, was dominate his American competition. Training year-round in the high-altitude outdoor sports mecca that is Colorado, Middaugh started racking up Xterra titles and challenging the best off-road triathletes in the world.
Something about my, my physiology or my skill set is very good for Xterra, but I was only able to realize that because of the environment that I was able to live in. I realized, probably somewhere around 2007, 2008, when I finally finished third in the World Championship, that I was good enough not just to, get on the podium, but I had a real shot at winning the race someday. And so I approached that race from then on every year, going to the World Championship, thinking I had a really good shot to win, and really going for that top step, but coming up short many, many times.
In 2015, in his 15th time racing the World Championship in Maui, Middaugh finally triumphed, claiming the global title despite crashing twice on the bike and once on the run.
The highlight of my career was definitely winning the 2015 Xterra World Championship. And throughout my career, I've had big setbacks too. I've had 5 knee surgeries. It was almost a blessing because I feel like it extended my competitive career that might have only been 10 years. Well, now I had an injury, I had a 2-year setback. That was 2 years that I feel like I tacked on to the back end of my career with each one of those setbacks, because it took me longer to reach my ultimate goal of finally winning that World Championship.
The career-defining victory helped Middaugh secure additional sponsorship, so he could take on fewer personal training clients and focus more on his coaching business and his own athletic career.
I was at the peak of my lifetime fitness, and I wanted to really see what I could do with that.
Middaugh and his wife Ingrid, sweethearts since they were track and field teammates at Central Michigan University, have 3 children.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Woo!
Sons Sullivan and Porter participate in a variety of sports, including off-road triathlons. And daughter Larson does gymnastics. That means a lot of chauffeuring for the busy parents.
I get my training done wherever it fits into that, and a lot of times it's at 6 a.m. For my swimming, or I'm fitting it in the middle of the day between dropping kids off, doing my computer work, and picking kids back up. And so I don't have, I'm not taking a nap every day. I'm not doing recovery modalities. I finish my training and I get right into the next activity. This is my 20th year competing in Xterra, and for anybody that's a full career. And it's more of just a feeling of gratitude to be able to do what I do, and I'm so fortunate for that. And I feel like I've finally, I actually have built a career, and that has been my goal, to be able to do something that I love, feel fulfilled from that, and also be able to make enough income to raise a family. And it's not that it's easy, and I have to hustle, and there's a whole lot of easier ways to make a living for sure, but I just feel really fortunate and grateful to be able to do that.
This segment is brought to you by Maui Jim Sunglasses. 20 years into his Xterra career, Middaugh may feel fulfilled, but he's still hungry to win. And on July 20th, the day of Beaver Creek Xterra, he had his work cut out for him. Among the elites gathered on the shore of Nottingham Lake, a nippy 67 degrees on race morning, were New Zealand's Sam Osborne, who has beaten Middaugh in their 2 previous meetings this season, and Karsten Madsen, a rising talent from Canada. Brad Zoller, Brandon Rikita, and Osborne were first out of the water, posting times of 18 minutes, 48 seconds for the 1.5-kilometer swim. Middaugh and Madsen were part of a big group 80 seconds back, and the race up the mountain was on.
This race course is the highest altitude course on the tour. So we swim at about 7,400 feet in elevation. And then the bike, similarly, we start out with a 5-mile, 2,000 vertical climb. So you can't go full gas like you can in other races. You have to pace yourself for the duration of that climb. That's going to be a 30 to 40-minute climb for the top competitors. And that's only the first 5 miles. And then you have another 10 plus miles that you need to get through on the bike.
No one knows the Beaver Creek course as well as Middaugh. By riding the first climb as hard as he possibly could, he took over the lead about 3 miles in and kept pushing. His bike time, 1 hour, 10 minutes, and 18 seconds, was more than 2 minutes faster than anyone else in the field.
Early on in the race, I wouldn't say that I felt great because you're suffering, but based on the position I was, I'd never caught the lead so early in the bike, and I knew that it was my race to lose at that point.
I was probably humbled today by the altitude. I think I've got a newfound respect for it. It was incredibly tough, and I went to some really deep, dark places today. So you're really just trying to play on that red line, and I guess Josiah managed to play a little bit easier with it, or he played his cards slightly better in the swim. I have no idea what the split was out of the swim, but we heard something like 2 minutes. So for him to close the 2-minute gap as quickly as he did was, super impressive.
With a 1 minute, 40-second lead heading out of transition 2, Middaugh kept the throttle open.
It's always easy to get splits when you're in second or third, but when you're in first, you don't get reliable splits because it might be from something 10 minutes before, so you don't know for sure.
Middaugh had the legs to extend his lead. The 40-year-old charged to the win in 2 hours, 9 minutes, and 26 seconds. His 7th career victory at Beaver Creek.
One of the feelings that I get crossing the finish line is relief. Definitely an emotional component to it too. I crossed the finish line with my daughter and a friend.
Osborne, the New Zealander, held on for second place, and Madsen of Canada threw down the fastest run split of the day to move up to third.
I was not disappointed by any means. I mean, to race somebody at home with the quality of an athlete like Josiah is always going to be tough. I said before the race, it's not so much the home course advantage, it's I guess the people, you want to come out, you want to perform in front of your family and friends, and it always brings out something special in somebody.
It was a successful day at the races for the Middaugh family, as 15-year-old Sullivan placed 16th overall, about 24 minutes behind his dad, in his first attempt at the full distance, while 13-year-old Porter won the Xterra sprint race outright, with a time of 1 hour, 33 minutes, and 11 seconds. In the women's race, Susie Snyder, a 32-year-old from Reno, Nevada, took the lead during the bike and never relinquished it. Despite cramps in her legs during the run, Snyder won by 2 minutes, breaking the tape in 2 hours, 37 minutes, and 8 seconds. Her first victory in 11 tries at Beaver Creek.
Between the altitude, the relentless climbing, and the competition, it's a real challenge, and I feel like I rose to the occasion today really well and finally conquered this course.
Xterra Adventures is presented by the Maui Visitors and Convention Bureau. Visit gohawaii.com/Maui. Xterra, racing and apparel for your active lifestyle. Visit xterraplanet.com. Liz McLean has made a habit of rising to the occasion. A veteran of the U.S. Air Force, McLean is still new to Xterra, but she has always used athletics as a way to cope with challenging situations.
My first marathon was actually in the 2nd grade, so that would have been out in Eureka, California, and I was fortunate, I guess you could say, enough to be brought up in a household where we didn't just walk, we ran wherever we went, and yeah, that cascaded into a lifestyle for how I am now. Over the course of my life, I've probably done well over 50 standalone marathons, and that's separate from multi-sport events as well.
A decade ago, McLean was deployed to Kuwait. She helped run the mortuary evacuation point, where the remains of American military members killed in Afghanistan were prepared for return to the U.S.
Throughout the course of my time in Kuwait, there were approximately 170 or more service members that came through, and that was during the time that my commander was actually assigned there. We would put anywhere up to 10 bodies on a plane home per day. So our unit, the actual people that were responsible for the preparation of the remains, was a small group of young Marines. And I learned a lot about the trials and tribulations of that job.
Having confronted death on a daily basis, McLean found it difficult to transition back to the banalities of everyday life when she left the military in 2011.
It was sad. It was hard. I came back and I could not relate to society any longer. I did not understand triviality, and I did not understand people complaining about simple nuances. It was the best time for the exact same reason, because it taught me how important human life is and truly how to be the person I am today and why I do what I do. When you leave the service, you often are lacking a sense of purpose and a sense of mission. And for me, not just utilizing sport for leisure, but using it in a competitive state was the answer to set me up for the next chapter in my life. Having something to focus on and having something to train for helped me to see that I had other potential and other capabilities that I could tap into. This is one of my favorite from Kuwait, actually. So the Commandant of the Marine Corps came through, and I was responsible for him for a period of time, and at the end he thanked me for our experience together and slipped this to me, so it's always held a special place in my heart. Being active has been ingrained in me from the get-go, and so it was only a natural course of action to use that to help me through my transition. Whether I'm swimming, I'm biking, I'm running, I can find immense clarity just by hitting the trails or the pavement.
When she moved to Boulder, McLean also found clarity through a new kind of adventure, paragliding.
For me, it truly is meditation in the sky. I find it comparable to mountain biking in that you have to be very present and in the moment. And for someone like me, whose mind never stops and can be on the bike forever and come back and write a novel, both flying and biking tend to quiet my mind and force me to focus. It feels like freedom.
Right there. Look right, lean right, turn right.
In 2015, the same year McLean started competing in Xterras, she launched her own company to help service members transition to civilian life and their new employers.
The main point of my position is actually focusing more on the companies than the veterans themselves. And that is because recruiters and hiring managers and executives don't understand the value of a service member in their organization, or if they do, they don't get how the discipline, the work ethic, the fire and forget concepts can be employed in virtually any sector. My goals for sport this year are to embrace new elements, to perfect my mountain biking skills on the technical terrain. I feel like I am pretty decent from a descending standpoint on the bike. My climbing right now with my injury is questionable.
Nice and easy, heart rate.
Despite having recently recovered from a couple of broken ribs, McLean finished 7th in her age group in 3 hours and 46 minutes.
It was a bit slower than I anticipated, but that being said, I felt really good overall and was really happy with the day. I think another standout moment for me today that made me laugh, was even as I was getting ready to go down corkscrew, was a gentleman that was coming up the run that looked at me and just said, "Buckle up, sweetheart," before I went down. And it's that environment. It's different, you know, versus having heads down. It's a little bit more jovial, and for me, at this point in my life, I appreciate that atmosphere.
Johnson, $15,000.
Coming up in the next episode, the 2019 Xterra World Tour heads to southern Italy in the picturesque mountain town of Scano, where a local favorite with an impressive sports pedigree aims for his 2nd win of the season, while a 2-time Winter Olympian goes for a 2nd title since turning 40. That's next time on Xterra Adventures.